Hello and welcome to this edition of Money, Money, Money. I'm Sumera Apti. Well, Diwali is almost upon us, and that means that the wedding season is also almost here. The end of the year is time when people are getting busy trying to get married, and around this time is when a lot of people would be preparing for that. And I know that, all Indian families have a long list of things they want to get through when people are getting married. But one aspect that sometimes gets ignored is financial compatibility between the couples. What does this mean? Why is it important? Joining in to explain all of that is Kalpesh Ashar of Full Circle Financial Planners and Advisors. Kalpesh, thanks very much for joining in. So we've heard of, romantic compatibility, but financial compatibility is a relatively new term. What does it exactly mean and why is it important?
Thanks, Camilla, for having me on the show. And like you rightly said, that romance is at one place, but finance is that underlying cushion which probably, helps that romance prosper. So that financial compatibility is a must, in today's time, especially when we have, couples who are mainly, we have a family which is dual income earning. And lots of aspirations are built in and lots of, challenges are there, and that is where this financial compatibility between couples comes in. Now, with due respect to the individual financial status of the husband and the wife, it is very necessary that I would say at least 80% to 90% of the compatibility is in sync and is in motion when a couple is full-fledged into a marriage. So we begin with a stage where we have this financial compatibility divided into three aspects, I would say. The first aspect is the most important one, which is, I think, a very universal aspect, which is nothing but your financial inclusion. And when I say financial inclusion, is that the husband and the wife, or both of them work as a team and not just separate units, because having two heads working together for a common goal with a common motive, I think works very well. The second one is, a very universal trait or a very famous thing which we've heard even for success in all parameters of our life is nothing but communication. And that should translate on financial matters in a very effective way between the couples, because lot of time we've seen at different strata of society that effective communication, and we'll dwell upon it as we move forward in the show, effective communication on financial matters is the root cause why this financial compatibility fails in many people. And the third aspect here, which I would say is having uniform financial goals. So like I said a while back, is that in today's times, the woman would think that I would want to have an independent status. The man would think that I would want to have an independent status for various reasons, for security purpose, for their own dreams and aspirations. But to succeed as a couple, and I've always advocated that very strongly, to succeed as a couple, to have a proper family, I think outlook on your finances, it is very necessary to have uniform financial goals. So you can't have, one of the members aspiring for a very good retirement and building up a corpus towards that, whereas the other member aspiring for a plush house once they retire and diverting all their finances there. So it depends on the sync or the, I think, uniformity of the financial goals, which propels the couple towards having more of focused energies, more of discipline towards achieving their financial goals.
Okay, absolutely. And, every time somebody tells you that you have your whole life to discuss this, why do you want to do it right away? Well, it's time to break that taboo, because you should do it actually before you get married. I mean, you have to find out whether or not your thought process is along a similar path. So, Kalpesh, in that vein, what should people talk about before they get married?
So apart from all the rosy things which go on in a pre-marriage phase during the courtship period, a level of financial maturity, I would say, is a must at this stage. It might sound utopian, but the sooner this bridge is crossed at a very early stage of a relationship, I think when the couple is getting to know each other and each other's financial strengths and weaknesses, and they will then continuously work, building their finances around it if they are going to be together for the rest of their lives. So the important aspects which come to my mind immediately is that during this courtship period, when obviously both of them are very young, there's a lot of mindset which wants to show a wrong picture of your real personality, and the guy or the girl would want to show off and do things or portray things which they are really not. I think that's a myth, and the true representation, I think, physically or financially, should be shown to your partner at this stage, because the sooner this myth is broken, if it is not the true one, it's better. The second one is that once the initial, lovey-dovey situations and all are crossed, I think the second thing is, you could, if they are going to work, if they are working already, their present earnings should be discussed. The present earnings in a very, subjective manner can be touched upon, because that will give a true representation of what that person is presently doing. The third is, on the other hand, when you discuss your earnings, obviously your spending habits, whether you are a conservative spender, whether you are an aggressive spender, should also be discussed. That gives you a fair idea. I'm not saying that will help you decide your partner, but that gives you a fair idea of what the person is getting into, and accept the reality. The other aspect is whether they have the habit of saving or investing regularly. Very, very important. I think in today's times, things have evolved a lot. There's a lot of awareness. There's a lot of things we get to hear about capital markets and stock markets and bank FDs and economy and all. So I think whether this person, the husband or the prospective, wife, they are into a habit of saving or investing regularly. Now, a very crucial aspect I would like to touch upon, Sumera, is that the aspect of, if any one of them wishes to pursue an education course before or after marriage. Because if it's going to be a career enhancing course, it's going to have a cost implication, it's going to have a time implication, it's going to have other psychological and social implications, because we have to dedicate time on that education course which one of the individuals is going to take. And this is also got a bearing on the family aspect, also when the girl comes into a new house, and how she's going to cope up with it. Then, apart from that, a touchy topic, I think it's discussed in this particular courtship time, is discussing the existing liabilities if an individual is carrying presently. So if he's carrying a loan which he's already under, payment status, or the family is undergoing some personal repayments which they have to make. So the sooner these things are discussed, I think it's better that it's sorted out at this particular stage itself. The other aspect, of late we've discussed, and it then comes out in a very, I would say, a negative manner, is the family's financial status. The true picture has to be represented, that apart from you, whatever you are, and whatever is your status, your family's financial status also needs to be discussed, because that is where your rest of the life is going to be, spent. You don't just marry an individual, you marry a family in Indian culture. So that is there. And finally, I would touch a very, touchy topic, is that if the prospective husband and his family will allow the girl or the wife to continue working professionally, or if they wish to pursue a profession post marriage. Very, very important, because there should be a clarity on these aspects, especially on the point of the lady working after marriage. And it should be the husband's initiative to encourage her to fulfill her professional goals if she wishes to. And the sooner it's sorted out, the better.
All right, and make no mistake, the objective of this is not for you to find out, how much a person earns. The objective is to find out whether or not the behavior related to the financial aspects is compatible with yours. It doesn't matter whether a person has less or more, but how do they manage that amount is what is most important to find out. So we've discussed things which are important to know before you get married, but certainly the conversation doesn't end there, does it, Kalpesh?
Not at all. I think the real proof of the pudding is when you get to stay together and you get married, and that's when the real, I would say, the real, the forces come about of discussing money, and the income and the expenses all show up, because that is the reality. And here we're discussing about couples and how they would take it forward. So the post-marriage phase, Sumera, is very, very important. And for many of those who miss out on not discussing these things pre-marriage, and in an Indian culture where there are most of arranged marriages and people still are conservative about discussing their finances, I think how couples start interacting with each other post-marriage also depends on, I think, I would say three factors, which is, the behavioral part, which you rightly touched upon, Sumera, and I'm glad you used the word behavior there, is that an individual's financial behavior depends a lot on how he's been brought about in his family, the past experience of the respective family behavior with regards to money. Because some families are very conservative, some families are quite, spendthrift, some are very investment oriented, and so on and so forth. So that has a big bearing on that individual's mind, and that carries on when that person gets married, and that has a straight implication on the spouse. That is the first point. The second is the level of trust the couple develops mutually between themselves. Now, this is not financial for sure in the beginning, but the level of love and trust which they have as a couple, the bonding, I would say, which automatically will help them discuss the financial matters in an easygoing manner. And the third aspect, I think it's the least touched upon, but I would lay a lot of stress on it, is developing individual financial awareness. So I'm not saying that everybody should be a financial expert. Everybody's got a different profession, different job. But in today's world, I think individually, be it the husband or the wife, has to be financially savvy in a little bit of more than required fashion, because everything today is become a complex jungle. And if you want to make your financial status strong and work towards achieving your financial goals, individual financial awareness is necessary. So keeping track of little bit of what the economy is doing, little bit what of the capital markets are doing, little bit of the digital space, everything should be known. You can just not be oblivious of the fact that it's not my job and the other person who will take care of it.
Absolutely. So we've discussed what is financial compatibility, but have you also heard of what is financial infidelity? Well, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Kalpesh is going to stay on with us. We'll be right back after a quick break.